All right, hey everybody, how's it going? Today is another episode of the Critical Ring Theory podcast, and we have kind of a special edition for you today. We're going to be going over predictions for the AEW's Fyter Fest pay-per-view that is going to be airing on Bleacher Report for totally free, which is actually a pretty awesome thing. There's a lot of great matchups that are going to be going on there, including Johnny Moxley, which is a big deal for all you wrestling fans out there, Dean Ambrose fans of the Shield. And today, really, what's going to happen is we're going to kind of go over the matches, and Pavan here, mainly since he's been a little more invested in it, is going to give predictions for the pay-per-view and all 9 matches that are on the card right now. And I'm really excited to kind of dive into it a little bit, as this is kind of a marquee pay-per-view, I think, for everyone out there, although I guess it's free. So, you know what? We're just going to dive right into it. We're not going to mess around too much. And we're going to start with, since the order of the matches is kind of secretive, I guess, technically, we're going to start off with the first one right away, which is a hardcore match between Michael Nakazawa versus Alex Jabali. Who do
Yeah,
you think is going to end up being the winner of this one here?
so I got to go with Michael Nakazawa. For anybody
Why?
who doesn't know, he has a history with Kenny Omega, and kind of I think worked with him early on in his, I want to say, DDT days. And the other thing is Michael Nakazawa is signed on with them long term. Alex Jabali, this show is being co-promoted as part of like a video game tournament, and so part of the story here is the video game element. But Michael Nakazawa is signed with AEW, and so I think that they're going to give him the win. And he seems to be kind of this character that they can have some fun with. During the Battle Royal, he was the guy who was doing the baby oil to kind of get out of things, and so funny character. But I see them go in that direction.
Oh, okay. Okay. You think the little kind of, I guess the connection to Kenny Omega is going to help kind of get the W on this one then, eh?
Well, not even just that. I think it's just the fact that he's going to be the more regular presence, and so it's that question of when you kind of bring in somebody random, is it really worth investing a win in them when the other person's going to be there the next day?
No, it's very fair. Otherwise, I guess you're putting the stock in kind of I guess I'm mixing references here, but putting stock in the wrong pony. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, way to go. So Michael Nakazawa is going to be the first winner of this hardcore match. And you know what? Let's venture to I think the newest match that was added to the card recently, which is Kylie Ray versus, if I'm pronouncing this right, Leva Bates. It's
So
a singles match.
yes, with Peter Avalon. So the story behind this, and Kevin, again, I don't know how familiar you are with this. Kylie Ray is very similar to Bailey in that she's just this very smiley, fun character, great in the ring. Leva Bates and Peter Avalon were both selected to be a character called the Librarian, and so part of the story is that they've both been assigned this role and they're trying to figure it out. I think it's either going to lead to them becoming a tandem or them being in some sort of intergender match against each other. So I'm going to go with Kylie Ray. The other thing is Leva Bates also was known as Blue Pants in NXT for a brief period of time. But I think,
Oh, Blue Pants.
indeed. So I think that Kylie Ray takes it kind of similarly, where I think that they have bigger plans for her in the women's division. And so they need to kind of get her on track.
Oh, sure. I think that's a pretty logical conclusion to that one. So I think that's a pretty good prediction that even though I'm not as familiar with the competitors that are in this matchup, it seems like that would probably be the outcome. So I'm going to back you on that one. All right. So we're going to dive into some bigger names here. We're going to go to this big matchup. It's a 4-way match between Adam Page versus Jimmy Havoc versus Jungle Boy and MJF. Someone I have recently fallen in love with because I love his heel work. Who do you think is going to end up being the winner of these 4?
I think they have to go with Adam Page. I think that they're going to do a lot of really creative things, but I think going into All Out with Adam Page challenging for the championship, it does not make sense for him to get a loss at this point. And I think that because you have 4 people in the match, you have some ways out creatively. But I think that they have to give him to Adam Page. And I think, to your point, MJF and Adam Page have been doing some really great work on being the elite. In particular, MJF calling Adam Page a horse, and Adam Page responding with, "If you don't like a horse, you're basically a giant." Insert expletive here. So, but Adam Page all the way. I think he's a star in the making, and AEW seems to recognize that.
Well, right. I mean, Adam Page, if I recall correctly, the kind of the debacle with the All In pay per view is that Adam Page was supposed to beat Pac correctly during the All In, but unfortunately, Pac, didn't the company that's working for it didn't want to lose the championship, so that kind of got pulled away, right?
Well, no. So the story is that actually Pac was supposed to win that match, but then eventually lose to Kenny Omega for the title.
Really?
And yeah, because that was the match I think they wanted was Omega versus Pac. But then when that changed, I think the plan was always to feature Hangman Page pretty predominantly in it. So maybe it just sped up that process. But no matter what, Adam Page was going to be somebody who came out of this first year really well positioned. I think that Jungle Boy is another guy who you could see getting a push. Obviously, the son of the late Luke Perry,
Yeah.
and so I think everybody in this match has the potential to do something really cool. I think a lot of your more hardcore wrestling fans are salivating at this idea of Jimmy Havoc versus John Moxley, which I think we'll see in the relative future as well.
Excellent. Okay, I agree with you on that one for sure. Even though I'm not as tuned in, I think to some of these performers, definitely, I think a bright future is ahead for Adam Page, the Hangman. They've been really looking to try to find a way to angle him to a massive feud. I think in the future for AEW, and this is just another good way to kind of get it there with getting victories over some of these guys you just highlighted a little bit. All right, so on to the next match. We have three-way tag team match where the winners advance to All Out for an opportunity at a first round bye in the AEW World Tag Team Championship Tournament. This is the Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta versus SoCal Uncensored, Scorpion Sky, and Frankie Kazarian versus Private Party. Who do you think is going to end up being the winner out of these three tag teams?
So this one is really interesting. So Private Party is like the newest kind of guys on the scene. They're the least probably known, but they do some really exciting things. You
And
have
it's a great name. I
it's
love it.
true. You have SoCal Uncensored, who are well known, Scorpio Sky, Frankie Kazarian, who have been around for a while. And then you have Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta. The interesting thing about the Best Friends is for a while there, they were teasing that they might break up. Then they signed with AEW, and things have kind of seemed like they're good again. And so I think that they're not necessarily going down that path anymore. If I got to choose one, I'm going to go with SoCal Uncensored. I think that they're the most established tag team, and I know that they've kind of talked about wanting to focus on the tag team division when their television starts. And so I think it would not surprise me if either Best Friends or Private Party end up in this tournament as well. But I think that SoCal Uncensored makes the most sense. And I think that them winning also leads to a different prediction where I'm going to predict that their co-SCU member is probably going to lose. So.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, we can just
Interesting.
roll into that if you want.
Sure.
So Christopher Daniels versus SEMA. SEMA, who's not somebody who's super well known for folks who are only watching kind of the WWE or the more domestic product, but is really well known in the independents and has kind of traveled the world. SEMA is actually booked to fight Kenny Omega on Fight for the Fallen, and so I think that they're going to want to give him a significant singles win to lead into the more casual fans who are
Makes
getting
sense.
a taste test, so to speak, to this show. And so I think that SEMA takes it. I think Christopher Daniels is so established and is a well-known commodity to fans who've been watching enough time, and he's getting older. And so I think it makes sense to go ahead and let SEMA get that win and build up some steam for that match versus Kenny Omega.
Mm. I think that would be a good way to do it. I mean, if ultimately the outcome is SEMA versus Kenny Omega, you have to justify Kenny Omega's opponent in here. So I think it makes sense getting a win over Christopher Daniels makes a lot of sense. So I would probably back you on that one as well. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. All right. So actually, you know what? That was a singles match, but let's get into kind of more complicated one. Go back to the three-way here. We're gonna have Yuka Sakazaki versus Riho versus Nyla Rose. Who do you see coming out on top in this one?
So yeah, Yuka and Riho, I believe, are both from the Joshi divisions, which Kenny Omega has a lot of ties to and is a big fan of. Nyla Rose, a performer that's been signed to AEW. I think that it's going to be Nyla Rose again, going back to this idea that she is the one that is signed on to be on regular television with them, and so I think Nyla Rose. I think Nyla Rose also has. She's got a very impressive physique and has the ability to be a physical competitor, and so I think that they're going to want to tell that story. In the Fatal 4-Way, she was kind of the one who took out Awesome Kong, and so I think that this is going to be a showcase for her to kind of show her abilities, and I think that Riho and Yuka are going to bounce for her a lot and just kind of move around the ring and help her kind of show herself to be the force that they want her to be.
Oh, I could definitely see it. I mean, if I remember from the poster, I mean, I think Nyla is pretty prominently displayed, so I could see her really becoming a major force that they. This is a good platform to kind of jump from. So I think it's pretty astute as well. Actually, so far, it's really bothering me actually that I've, based off of admittedly my own limited knowledge, how much I'm kind of agreeing with you on this one and how much it makes sense your explanation. So it's actually bothering me quite a bit, but got to give credit where credit's due. All right. Glad that I'm going to move forward before you have any commentary on that one. One of the last few matches here, we have Cody Rhodes versus Darby Allin. This is a big one. You, as a big Cody fan, what are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, this one's really hard for me because obviously I love Cody. Darby Allin is kind of a star that a lot of people don't know about. Great in the ring. And he did an interview for the Nightmare Family YouTube channel, I think
It's a
2
great
weeks
channel.
ago, where they did a really good job of producing him. I'm gonna say Cody, and that's more a pick for my heart, but this one could really go either way. The only reason why I'm gonna say Cody is him and Dustin are gonna go into a match with the Young Bucks at the next show, and I think that they're gonna want Cody to be strong. But this again is one of the challenges with having the executive vice presidents being some of the talent too. Is
Yeah.
when do they lose?
Yeah, it's like inmates running the prison, sort of. I mean, you have that thought. I'm not saying that's what they're doing, of course, but there's always that potential for that kind of danger. I mean, this is what people weren't always knocked WCW for, particularly like Kevin Nash ending Goldberg's streak, because they said he had the book and obviously he's going to make himself look good. Uh, Hopefully, Cody is not doing it for that reason. Hopefully, it is to make the next match much better for the company overall. But it seems as though Cody is a solid choice. But at the same time, I guess you have to weigh that thing of, you said he's Darby's kind of a lesser known. Do you want to use this as kind of a platform to Darby kind of leap off of? Because realistically, if Cody loses, is it going to be that big of a blow to Cody?
Not really. I would say either way. One of the things I anticipate is that Darby Allin will be one of the wrestlers that people come out of this show talking about because he's just incredibly talented. And so, you're absolutely right that I don't think Cody is harmed by losing. So it's just one of those things where, when do you pull the trigger? But this one really could be a coin flip. I'm gonna go Cody, but like I said, I think coming out of out of this show, Darby Allin is one of those talents that people are going to say, "Hey, there's something there. This guy could be really good."
Oh yeah, no matter what, Cody's going to make him look good no matter what. So even if for some reason Darby dogs it a little bit, you know what Cody can do. Win or lose, Darby's going to be fine.
Mhm.
So I think that's kind of the positive that you can kind of extrapolate from all this, which is terrific. We're gonna move on to one of the last couple matches here, and this is kind of the newcomer, Johnny Moxley, is going up against Joey Janela in a non-sanctioned match, which pretty much sounds like classic Dean Ambrose and Moxley here. So, what do you think is going to end up being the victor out of these two?
So this one is not a hard one to call at all. I think
No.
obviously Moxley is heading into All Out with Kenny Omega. He's also heading into the G1 tournament, and I think that they want to have him be positioned really highly. So Johnny Moxley wins again. I will say that this one is going to be a really interesting one. Joey Janela is well known for just taking risks with his body that people probably shouldn't. And so I think it's going to be really physical. I think it's going to be an interesting match, but I don't think that there's any way that John Moxley loses this. This is a showcase match for him to show what he can do in that kind of hardcore non-sanctioned match because even though he's dabbled in that in WWE, like this was kind of his style before. And so I think we're going to find whatever that true mesh is of John Moxley and Dean Ambrose in terms of the WWE style that he had, as well as kind of incorporating some of that hardcore style that he had in the past.
Oh, sure. I mean, I without a doubt, I think Johnny Moxley is definitely the one that has to win. I mean, you're not going to have him show up and lose. That's ridiculous. And he's building credibility outside of AEW. This would help kill that a little bit, and that's not what these guys are about. So for sure, he's got to end up winning this one.
Yeah, and I would say the only other thing, and this doesn't really factor into the prediction, but I have to say personally, as somebody who was a big Ambrose fan at some point and enjoys John Moxley, it's just really refreshing to see him on New Japan and on AEW and like cutting promos and just with an excitement and authenticity that was kind of lost there for a little bit. So to me, the last couple of months for him, particularly from the moment he showed up at Double or Nothing, has been really gratifying to see him find his passion again.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's clearly, even though I'm kind of bummed out as a WWE guy, but let's be clear, Dean Ambrose was trash when he came back. He looked like Triple H, but he had, it was all show and no go, it seemed like. But that was mainly because they wrote him garbage stuff to do. The last thing he did, I think, was an incomplete feud with Nia Jax. But it's great to see that, now that he's out there, he can kind of be the real loose cannon that he is, and he plays it in character, but it seems like as a wrestler, that's just kind of what he is. Because back in, what was it, Guerrilla Wrestling, that's the first time I think I really saw some of his crazy ECW type stuff. And even though he may not go exactly back to that, he's definitely going to have a lot more creative freedom that's going to make him good. And Johnny Moxley probably moving forward we're going to see the best. And this is not going to be a speed bump along the way. This is only going to be kind of a catapult to make him even better. And now that he even has a championship, on his waist already. Mm-hmm. All right, so I think the final match of the night, if I have it right, I'm not missing anything from the card, is going to be the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix, and the Laredo Kid versus the Elite, Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks. Who do you see as the winner of this match between these six men?
So this one's really hard again.
Tell me why.
So the Young Bucks show up at AAA. They win the AAA Tag Team Championships. Excuse me, because I'm not going to remember the term for the specific championships. Then they defend the championships against the Lucha Brothers at Double or Nothing, win. Then they go back to a AAA show and lose those Tag Team Championships. You have Kenny Omega, who lost his first match in AEW, and Pentagon and Rey Fenix, who are fantastic performers, as well as Laredo Kid, who I don't know as much about. So again, this could be a real toss-up. I'm gonna go with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, purely again because of what they're going into with the next couple shows. I know that Rey Fenix and Pentagon Jr. are AEW signees, and I think that they'll be in the tag team tournament along with the Young Bucks. But I think that it just makes more sense for Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson to take this one. Independently, Nick Jackson is one of my favorite performers in the world of wrestling. Just in the he plays like that cocky, arrogant role so perfectly. Like, he's that friend in high school that you had that like you loved but all your friends hated, and he's got it down to a science. So regardless, I take the Elite here, but again, a really interesting one to call, and one that will be fast, hard-hitting, and you will be hard-pressed to find a match that's going to have better action in it in the near future.
Absolutely. That's the match of the night that I'm looking forward to the most. I mean, all these guys can all go. I've seen the Lucha Brothers much less than I've seen the Elite, of course. But from what we know what the Elite can bring, they can make even, just poor wrestlers or people that are not quite as good in the ring, they can make it much more interesting. So I would say no matter who wins, it's going to be good. But I'd have to imagine the Elite has to win. I mean, I don't know how you can have almost like a majority share of the ownership in the match and they're going to lose.
Touche.
It's tough.
Well,
it's tough.
They're not technically the ownership, but as you were saying before, the Elite have the
brain trust, will say.
They have the ability to bring things up. So you might say that the Elite have the ability to make things all elite.
Yeah.
That's my
But
dad joke that we can close on if you want.
everyone gets one. Everyone gets
Exactly.
one. All right, terrific. So it looks like those are the predictions of the mat or the pay-per-view Fighter Fest. It is June 29th, so it's going to be this Saturday. You can check it out on Bleacher Report. If I remember correctly, it's a pretty cool step by AEW to provide that free. It's very smart of them as well. I think the feedback from the first pay-per-view number was a little bit, wow, that's a little bit high. Who the hell do you think you are, AEW? But I'll pay it anyway because I believe in what you're doing. So it's probably smart to follow it up with one that's a little bit free. Ultimately, long term seems like it's going to do the best. Looks like that's coming up this Saturday and should be a pretty good show based off the card that we provided. And we'll check in later on in the next week and see exactly how Pavan's predictions kind of sized up and to see if he's as bright as he thinks he is. Because I always question that all the time.
Of course you do, but don't make the same mistake that Robert Downey Jr. and Ariana Grande are making. Tune in and be a part of Fyter Fest. It's going to be a great night.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, I love Ariana and Robert Downey Jr. so much. I hate the idea that they could ever make mistakes.
Well, everybody has their moments. At some
Yeah, I
point, I
guess we all.
befriended you, so
Well, I think that was the best dividends that's ever been paid off in your life, personally. Hey, Liz. Anyway, that's going to do it for this little episode here of Critical Ring Theory. Hope you check back for some more episodes and some more little snippets that we have about WWE Wrestling, AEW, Ring of Honor, and of course, some other wrestling content that we can do a little bit more on. Check back on our SoundCloud and also our YouTube channel for all that great content. Hope you all have an amazing day, everybody. Take care. And goodbye from the Critical Ring Theory.